Welcome to the first episode of Rich Tales, or what I'm calling Rich Tales right now. It is essentially just me telling a story. Today we're doing Grimm's fairy tales. Brothers Grimm wrote a lot of interesting stories, and I gotta tell you, if you're familiar with the Disney versions of these stories, the original versions are quite different indeed. So we're going to learn a little bit about today. Today, we're going to start with the Frog King. I don't know how many of these Grimm stories we're going to get through today, but we're going to go for an hour at least. So I'm going to start with the Frog King and going to continue until we get to an hour. And if I'm in the middle of a story when we get to an hour, then I'll just finish the story. It's as simple as that, everybody. Anyways, but Rich Tales may or may not include in the future other stories. Perhaps we'll read one of the novels I've written, or one of the scripts that I've written that never got turned into a video. Who knows? But today we're going to keep it easy and light. Keep it easy and light. And go with some Grimm fairy tales. Anyways, without further ado, I know we're getting to the meat and potatoes of exactly, I know the reason why you're all here, right? Which is just I need to shut up now and then read books from this great book of Grimm's fairy tales. Special shout out to my sister Christine, who got me this Grimm's fairy tales book for Christmas, which allowed me to do this today. So here we go. Oh, and a special shout out to everybody who made it here live, of course. And don't forget, if you haven't given this video a thumbs up, give it a thumbs up. You know how YouTube ignores us who don't get thumbs ups and likes. Anyways, The Frog King by the Brothers Grimm. Page 1. In old times, when wishing still helped one, there lived a king whose daughters were all beautiful, but the youngest was so beautiful that the sun itself, which has seen so much, was astonished whenever it shone in her face. Close by the king's castle lay a great dark forest, and under an old-time tree, in the forest as well, was a well. And an old-time tree and an old-time story. We're gonna have some fun commentary during the story. And when the day was very warm, the king's child went out into the forest and sat down by the side of the cool fountain. That's what it says, cool fountain. It's really cool. And when she was bored, she took a golden ball and threw it up on high and caught it. And this ball was her favorite plaything. Now, it so happened that on one occasion, the princess's golden ball did not fall into the little hand which she was holding up for it, but on the ground beyond, and rolled straight into the water. The king's daughter followed it with her eyes, but it vanished, and the well was deep, so deep that the bottom could not be seen. At this, she began to cry, and cried louder and louder, and could not be comforted. And as she thus lamented, someone said to her, What ails you, king's daughter? That's it's very informal. It's like, what's the matter, daughter of the president? She has a name, okay? Your tears would melt a heart of stone. She looked round to the side from where the voice came and saw a frog stretching forth his thick, big, ugly head from the water. Ah, old water splasher, is it you? She said. What a way to... Old water splasher, is that you? I am weeping for my golden ball, which has fallen into this well. Be quiet and do not weep, answered the frog. I can help you, but what will you give me if I bring your plaything up again? Whatever will you have, dear frog, she said. My clothes, my pearls and jewels, and even the golden crown which I am wearing? The frog answered, I do not care for your clothes, your pearls, your jewels, or your golden crown, but if you will love me, and let me be your companion and playmate, and sit by you at your little table, and eat off your little golden plate, and drink out of your little cup, and sleep in your little bed, if you promise me this, I will go down below and bring your golden ball up. I don't think she should do it. This seems like a really bum deal. This is a creepy-ass frog. He's like, let me sleep in your bed. Jeez. All right. Oh, yes, she said. I promise you all that you wish, if you will but bring my ball back again. However, she thought, how the silly frog does talk. He lives in the water with other frogs and croaks, and can be no companion to any human being. It's dawning on her now. It's only dawning on her now that this frog is talking. She's already made a deal. She's already made a deal with this frog. And only after she's like, yes, frog, I'll give you $10,000 or whatever. She's like, wait a minute, this frog talks. You know, some things do get lost in the moment, but I mean, if a frog is talking to me, I feel like the first thing that's going through my head is, oh wow, this frog is talking. I don't know, maybe she's like 5 years old. It never actually says how old she was. Of course, that wasn't the Grimm's fairy tale style. It wasn't like, and there she stood, 4'11", 12 years old. Like, no, they weren't. This isn't Stephen King, you know, we're not getting to arbitrary specifics here. Anyways. Okay. But the frog, when he had received this promise, put his head into the water and sank down, and in a short while came swimming up again with the ball in his mouth, and threw it on the grass. The king's daughter was delighted to see her pretty plaything once more, and picked it up and ran away with it. Oh, it's a dining ditch. Wait, said the frog. Take me with you. I can't run as you can. But what did it avail him to scream his croak after her as loudly as it could? She did not listen, but ran home and soon forgot the poor frog, who was forced to go back into his well again. The next day, wow, broken promises. What an entitled little princess. Shame. I'm like reading it like a preschool teacher. It's like, would everyone like to see the picture? The next day, when she had seated herself at table with the king and all the courtiers, and was eating from her little golden plate, something came creeping, splish, splash, up the marble staircase. And when it had got to the top, it knocked at the door and cried, Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me. She ran to see who it was outside, but when she opened the door, there sat the frog in front. She then slammed the door in great haste, sat down to dinner again, and was quite frightened. The king saw plainly that her heart was beating violently, and said, My child, what are you so afraid of? Is there perchance a giant outside who wants to carry you away? Oh no, she replied. It is no giant, but a disgusting frog. What does a frog want with you, my dear? Oh, dear father, yesterday, as I was in the forest sitting by the well, playing my golden ball, fell into the water. And because I cried so, the frog brought it out again for me. And because he so insisted, I promised him he should be my companion. But I never thought he would be able to come out of his water, and now he's outside and wants to come in. In the meantime, it knocked a second time and cried, Princess! Princess! Youngest princess, open the door for me. Do you know what you said to me yesterday by the cool waters of the fountain? Princess, youngest princess, please open the door for me. You promised. Then said the king, That which you have promised, you must perform. Go and let him in. Way to go, Dad. She went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in and followed her, step by step, to her chair. There he sat and cried, Lift me up beside you. I realize I haven't made a separate voice between the frog and the king yet, because I couldn't remember the voice I made for the king in the beginning, but I think okay, so from now on, the frog is going to sound like this. Ah! And the king gets the deep kingly voice. Okay, so there we go. Corrections were made. The frog cried, Lift me up beside you. She delayed, until at last the king commanded her to do it. When the frog was once on the chair, he wanted to be on the table, and when he was on the table, he said, Now push your little golden plate nearer to me, that we may eat together. She did this, but it was easy to see that she did not do it willingly. The frog enjoyed what he ate, but almost every mouthful she took choked her. Oh, okay. See, this sentence right here was not it was not written correctly. That's why I got confused. Not my fault. So, basically, she's choking because she can't stand the sight of this frog eating next to her. That's what's going on. Anyways, the frog enjoyed what he ate, but almost every mouthful she took choked her. At length, he said, I have eaten and I am satisfied. Now I am tired. Carry me into your little room and make your little silken bed ready, and we will both lie down and go to sleep. The king's daughter began to cry, for she was afraid of the cold frog, which she did not like to touch, and which was now to sleep in her pretty, clean little bed. But the king grew angry and said, Who helped you when you were in trouble? Ought not to be despised by you afterwards. So she took hold of the frog with 2 fingers, carried him upstairs, and put him in a corner. And when she was in bed, he crept to her and said, I am tired. I want to sleep as well as you. Lift me up or I will tell your father. Then she was terribly angry. She took him up and threw him with all her might against the wall. Now you will be quiet, odious frog, she said. And when he fell down, he was no frog, but a king's son with beautiful kind eyes. And it came to pass that with her father's consent, he became her dear companion and husband. He told her how he had been bewitched by a wicked witch, and how no one could have delivered him from the well but herself, and that tomorrow they would go together into his kingdom. Then they went to sleep, and next morning, when the sun awoke, a carriage came driving up with 8 white horses, which had white ostrich feathers on their heads, and were harnessed with golden chains, and behind stood the young king's servant, Faithful Henry. Faithful Henry had been so unhappy when his master was changed into a frog that he had caused 3 iron bands to be laid around his wrist. 3 iron bands to be laid around his heart, lest it should burst with grief and sadness. The carriage was to conduct the young king into his kingdom. Faithful Henry helped them both in, and placed himself behind again, and was full of joy because of this deliverance. And when they had driven a part of the way, the king's son heard a cracking behind him, as if something had been broken. So he turned around and cried, "Henry, the carriage is breaking." "No, master, it is not the carriage. It is a band from my heart, which was put there in my great pain when you were a frog and imprisoned in that well." And again, once again, while they were on their way, something cracked, and each time the king's son thought the carriage was breaking. But it was only the bands which were springing from the heart of faithful Henry, because his master was set free and was happy. Oh, that is the end of that story. Okay, well, let's talk about that story for a minute before we move on to the next one. So was the curse that he wasn't going to turn back into a human again until he got slammed against the wall as a frog, which would have killed him? And then he turned into a man and then slept in the same bed as this little girl, and now he's basically kidnapping her to go back to his kingdom. How did he get in the whale of a neighboring kingdom in the first place? I don't know. But and then his servant literally has iron bands around his heart and was so heartbroken. I think his servant was in love with the prince, and that's why he was so heartbroken. Not because he turned into a frog, but because the only way he could get out of that curse was because he had to marry this girl. Maybe. I don't know. What a funny story, Brothers Grimm. You sure know how to write them. That is something else, let me tell you. Okay. Oh, boy. Next story. This one's called Cat and Mouse in Partnership. Aw. Thank you, Samantha. Samantha says, "Remember, ladies, protect your golden balls." Don't let those pesky frogs get your golden balls. Okay. Cat and Mouse in Partnership by the Brothers Grimm. A certain cat had made the acquaintance of a mouse, and had said so much to her about the great love and friendship she felt for her, that at length the mouse agreed that they should live and keep house together. "But we must make a provision for winter, or else we shall suffer from hunger," said the cat. "And you, little mouse, cannot venture everywhere, or you will be caught in a trap some day." Thank you so much, LL457, for your generous super chat. And says, "Love your channel. I still go back and watch the old Stupid Mario series." Thank you so much, Double L. I'm going to call you Double L from now on. Thank you so much. The good advice was followed, and a pot of fat was bought. But they did not know where to put it. At length, after much consideration, the cat said, "I know no place where it will be better stored up than in the church, for no one dares take anything away from there. We sit it beneath the altar and not touch it until we are really in need of it." So the pot was placed in safety, and it was not long before the cat had a great yearning for it, and said to the mouse, "I want to tell you something, little mouse. My cousin has brought a little son into the world, and has asked me to be godmother. He is white with brown spots, and I am to hold him over the front at the christening. Let me go out today, and you look after the house by yourself." "Yes, yes," answered the mouse. I decided to give the mouse a deep voice. "Yes, yes," answered the mouse. "By all means go, and if you get anything very good, think of me. I should like a drop of sweet red christening wine, too." What is this story? Mouse wants christening wine. He specifically wants the wine that is poured over the baby. What is wrong with the Brothers Grimm? Okay, all right, I'm going to keep reading. All this, however, was untrue. The cat had no cousin, and had not been asked to be godmother. She went straight to the church, stole to the pot of fat, and began to lick it, and licked the top of the fat off. Then she took a walk upon the roofs of the town, looked out for opportunities, and then stretched herself in the sun and licked her lips whenever she thought of the pot of fat, and not until it was evening did she return home. "Well, here you are again," said the mouse. "No doubt you have had a merry day." I'm making the mouse sound suspicious.
"All went off well,"
answered the cat. "What name did they give the child?"
Top off,"
said the cat quite coolly. "Top off?" cried the mouse. "That is a very odd and uncommon name. Is it a usual one in your family?" Now the mouse is starting to sound like Churchill.
"What does it matter?" said the cat. "It's no worse than a crumb stealer, as your godchildren are called."
Wow. Before long, the cat was seized by another fit of longing. She said to the mouse,
"You must do me a favor and once more manage the house for a day alone. I am again asked to be godmother, and as the child has a white ring around his neck, I can't refuse."
The good mouse consented, but the cat crept behind the town walls to the church and devoured half the pot of fat.
"Nothing ever seems so good as what one keeps to oneself,"
said the cat, and was quite satisfied with her day's work. When she went home, the mouse inquired, "And what was this child christened?"
Half done,"
answered the cat. "Half done? What are you saying? I never heard the name in my life. I'll wager anything that it is not in the calendar of saints." The cat's mouth soon began to water for more licking.
"All good things come in threes,"
she said.
I am asked to stand godmother once again. The child is quite black."
Wow, this cat is racist.
"Child is quite black, only it has white paws. But with that exception, it has not a single white hair on its whole body. This only happens once every few years. You will let me go, won't you? I need to go."
"Top off, half done," answered the mouse. "They are such odd names. They make me very thoughtful."
You sit at home," said the cat. In your dark gray fur coat and long tail, and are filled with fancies. That's because you do not go out in the daytime."
During the cat's absence, the mouse cleaned the house and put it in order, but the greedy cat entirely emptied the pot of fat.
"When everything is eaten up, one has some peace,"
said the cat, and well filled and fat, she did not return home till night. The mouse at once asked what name had been given to the third child.
"It will not please you more than the others," said the cat. "He is called All Gone."
"All Gone?" cried the mouse. "That is the most suspicious name of all. I have never seen it in print. All Gone? What can that mean?" And she shook her head, curled herself up, and laid down to sleep. From this time forth, no one invited the cat to be godmother. And when the winter had come and there was no longer anything to be found inside, the mouse thought of the provision and said, "Come, cat, we will go to our pot of fat, which we have stored up for ourselves. We shall enjoy that."
Yes," answered the cat. You will enjoy it as much as you would enjoy sticking that dainty tongue of yours out the window."
They set out on their way, but when they arrived, the pot of fat was what's in it was in its place, but it was empty. "Alas," said the mouse, "now I see what has happened. Now it comes to light. You are a true friend. You are a true friend? What? You have devoured all when you were standing godmother. First top off, then half done, then—"
"Will you hold your tongue?" said the cat. "One more word and I will eat you too."
All gone was already in the poor mouse's lips. Scarcely had she spoken it before the cat sprang on her, seized her, and swallowed her down. And that is the way of the world. That's how that story ends. The cat eats the mouse. Their domestic partner, for all things said and done. Greedy cat eats fat, lies about it, and then gets away with murder. What's wrong with you, Brothers Grimm? Well, they didn't live in this century, that's for sure. Anyways, I got some super chats I need to read. I just wanted to finish my story, so I'm so sorry I didn't get to these super chats before. Anyways, Killjoy says, can I request... I can't speak today. I've been reading too much. Can I request Hansel and Gretel if it's in the book? I'm going to put a bookmark on this one so that way I know where I left off. Because I was just going in order, essentially. I will check that in a second, Killjoy. We have another super chat from Double L. Says, what's your favorite Mario Kart game? Probably Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because it's, in my opinion, I know it's the newest game, but it's also, like, in my opinion, they took all the things that made Mario Kart great and then just made a game with all, they took the best courses, the best dynamics. I love playing with a pro controller, and it's great. I love, Mario Kart 8, the wild intro and everything. And they keep adding levels to it, which is good. You don't need to make another Mario Kart game ever, because it's perfect. You just keep needing to add more DLC levels, and that's all you'll ever have to do, I suppose. Let's see here. Nacho Taco says, can you turn the volume up, please? I mean, I'm in the red already on my end. Maybe you have to turn up your volume. I mean, there's nothing else going on. There's no music or anything going on. All right, let me look for Hansel and Gretel as per request from Killjoy. By the way, is everyone having a good time? Is everyone having a lovely, lovely time? How are you doing? How are your families? Did you all have a good New Year's, a good Christmas? Splendid. All right. I see some familiar stories. Rapunzel. I don't know if these were put into like the order in which they were written or just the way that they decided to do it for whatever reason. Rumpelstiltskin. Fox and the Cat, Fox and the Wolf, Fox and his cousin. There's a story called Clever Gretel. Let's see here. Oh my goodness. There's a title of a story that I can't possibly say on stream. I'm not seeing it right now, Killjoy, but I will... If it's in here, I'll get to it eventually. I'm just not seeing it right now. There's like 200 stories in this book. Maybe Hansel and Gretel's not in here because like it's a really well-known one that could just sell its own book. That's possible. Or they've titled it something else in here. There's a story in here called Clever Gretel on 280. Okay, no, that's not the same story at all. Clever Gretel. Alright, okay, it's okay. We'll get to it next time, Killjoy, alright? Maybe I'll make a special episode of Rich Tales. That is just Hansel and Gretel. We'll see. Anyway. See, how long have we been going? Only 30 minutes. I got time for more. Let's see how long this one is. This is another good one. Okay. All right. Everybody's still here. I didn't lose anybody, right? Killjoy's here. AJ's here. Dante's here. Ominous Pigeon Master is here. Weston the Ohioan is here. Double L's is here, I think, still. Keaton Kid is here, okay. Mega Shadow is here. We had a new person in the stream today, Samantha. Is Samantha still here? I don't know. I haven't seen Samantha comment in a minute. Where's Samantha? Nacho Taco is here. AJ is here. I might have already said that. Tim Rogers is here. Christine is here. When Repart says, Andy and I got him that book. Yes, I said, you missed the beginning of my stream, Christine. I told everybody who got me this book. Did you already see? I already read 2 stories so far. And I'm going to read at least 1 more. Oh, Samantha's still here. Fantastic. All right. All right. Now, this 3rd story is called Our Lady's Child. Near a great forest dwelt a woodcutter with his wife, who had an only child, a little girl 3 years old. They were so poor, however, they no longer had daily bread, and did not know how to get food for her. One morning the woodcutter went out sorrowfully to his work in the forest, and while he was cutting wood, suddenly there stood before him a tall and beautiful woman with a crown of shining stars on her head, who said to him, I am the Virgin Mary, mother of the child Jesus. You are poor and needy. Bring your child to me. I will take her with me to be her mother and care for her. First of all, some giant woman in the forest claims to be the Virgin Mary. I don't buy it. They shouldn't buy. I know, because this is a Grimm fairy tale. They're gonna be like, well, that sounds like a great idea. Here you go. But like, come. What? Anyways, we have another super chat from Double L, who says, in your GTA 5 stream, you were vaping. That stuff is really bad for you. Thank you for your advice, Double L. I was vaping. Is it bad? I don't know. That's what the ads tell you. And, I don't know. Look, everybody, do your own thing. By the way, those ads that tell everybody that vaping is horrible for them, those ads are paid for by Camel, because they want to get rid of vaping so they can sell cigarettes. That's not a conspiracy. Look it up. Also, don't listen to anything I say. Just jokes. But thank you for your super chat, Double L. I do appreciate you trying to keep everybody health conscious. It's okay. All right. Woo! Anyways, the woodcutter obeyed, brought his child, and gave her to the Virgin Mary, who took her up to heaven with her. Evidence? There the child fared well, ate sugar cakes. Okay, we're feeding the child sugar cakes. Is this really the Virgin Mary? I think the Virgin Mary would know not to feed a small child sugar cakes. Also, they didn't even have sugar cakes in Bethlehem in the year 0. So how did the Virgin Mary learn how to make sugar cakes? And drank sweet milk. And her clothes were of gold, and the little angels played with her. And when she was 14 years of age, the Virgin Mary called her one day and said, Dear child, I am about to make a long journey, so take into your keeping the keys of the 13 doors of heaven. 12 of these you may open, and behold the glory which is within them. But the 13th, to which this little key belongs, is forbidden. Beware of opening it, or you will bring misery on yourself. The girl promised to be obedient, and when the Virgin Mary was gone, she began to examine the dwellings of the kingdom of heaven. Each day she opened one of them, until she had made the round of the 12. In each of them sat one of the apostles, in the midst of a great light, and she rejoiced in all the magnificence and splendor. And the little angels who always accompanied her rejoiced with her. Then the forbidden door alone remained, and she felt a great desire to know what could be hidden behind it. And she said to the angels, I will not open it, and I will not go inside it, but I will unlock it just so I can see a little through the opening. I just want to see a little bit. Oh no, said the angels. That would be a sin. The Virgin Mary has forbidden it, and it might easily cause you unhappiness. Then she was silent, but the desire in her heart was not stilled, but gnawed and tormented her, and let her have no rest. And once when the angels had all gone out, she thought, now I am quite alone,
and I could peep in. If I do it, no one will ever know.
She sought out the key, and when she got it in her hand, she put it in the lock, and when she had put it in, she turned it round as well. Then the door sprang open, and she saw there the Trinity sitting in fire and splendor. She stayed there a while, and looked at everything in amazement. When she touched the light a little with her finger, and her finger became quite golden, immediately a great fear fell on her. She shut the door violently and ran away. Her terror, too, would not quit her. Let her do what she might, she and her heart beat continually and would not be still. The gold, too, stayed on her finger and would not go away, no matter how much she rubbed it and washed it. It was not long before the Virgin Mary came back from her journey. She called the girl before her and asked to have the keys of heaven back. When the maiden gave her the bunch, the Virgin looked into her eyes and said, "Have you not opened the 13th door also?" "No," she replied. Then she laid her hand on the girl's heart and felt it beat and beat, and saw right into her heart and saw that she disobeyed her and had opened the door. And then she said once again, "Are you certain you have not opened the 13th door?" Is this like the Virgin Mary's version of a what's it called when you strap the thing on your arm and they take wow, my brain today. Polygraph test, that's what it is. This is the Virgin Mary's version of the polygraph test. Remember, kids. Alright, never mind. Yeah, the girl said a second time. Then she perceived the finger which had become golden from touching the fire of heaven, and saw well that the child had sinned, and said for the third time, "Have you not opened the door?" I don't know why I'm making her sound like SpongeBob now. "Am I a pretty girl, Squidward?" "No," said the girl a third time. Then the Virgin Mary said, "You have not obeyed me, and besides that, you have lied. You are no longer worthy to be in heaven." I would like to remind the Virgin Mary at this time that she's the one that begged the poor farmer to give her his baby, and she asked for this. And you think you're going to have a girl to grow up into a teenager and she's not going to disobey you at least once? Get out of here, Virgin Mary, if that is your real name. Then the girl fell into a deep sleep, and when she awoke, she lay on the earth below, and in the midst of a wilderness. She wanted to cry out, but she could bring forth no sound. She sprang up and wanted to run away, but whenever she turned herself, she was continuously held back by thick hedges of thorns, though which she could not break. In the desert in which she was imprisoned, there stood an old hollow tree, and this had to be her dwelling place. Into this she crept when night came, and here she slept. Here, too, she found shelter from storm and rain, but it was miserable. It was a miserable life, and bitterly did she weep when she remembered how happy, turn the page, she had been in heaven, and how the angels had played with her. The end. Now, I have questions, of course. First of all, what a weird story, Grimm's. Yes, thank you, Samantha. Samantha says it's just like having Cheeto fingers and saying you didn't eat Cheetos, you know? Like, you caught Cheeto-handed. You got caught with Cheeto fingies. Anyways. First of all, okay, I know that there's a rule on this channel that we don't talk about religion, and obviously I read a Grimm fairy tale that had some, more than just allusions to religion, so I apologize if I've offended anyone, but I will say this story is just, it's just Genesis, it's just the story of Adam and Eve again. You had a great thing going, and then you screwed it up, you sinned, and then you're banished. Even though, well, you know what, I'm not even going to get into it, because again, we don't talk about religion on this channel, but all I'm saying is, shame on the Brothers Grimm, because they just retold an old story that everybody knows, basically. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. See, how long is this? Okay, this one's a longer one. I think I'll save this one for next time. The name of this story is The Story of the Youth who went forth to learn what fear was. Ooh, can you see that? How about the story of the brothers Grimm who don't know how to write a title of a book? Tim Rogers says, Hansel and Gretel's on page 54.
Oh, do you have the same one?
Page 294. 54. Oh, so it is. Okay. Let's take a look. Take a look. It's in a book of reading rainbow. Okay. But don't take my word for it. Ha! How long is Hansel and Gretel? Oh, it's actually not very long. It's only a few pages. Okay. Hansel and Gretel by the Brothers Grimm. Double L says, I create my YouTube channel a few months ago. I have 44 subscribers. What is your advice on how to grow my channel? Things have changed a lot since I started this YouTube channel. I mean, my only advice is just try to make content consistent. Sorry, excuse me. LaCroix. Try to make content consistently. Learn from the comments. Obviously, there's always going to be trolls, but do something and then learn from the comments and then try to continue to do content that kind of leans towards more what people enjoyed from your previous stuff, and etc. I mean, that's the only advice I can do. I mean, that's kind of like the old YouTube joke, right? It's like, how to get more followers? Make good content. There is no shortcut. There is no magic, there's a bunch of those fake sites that are like, you can pay $10 and get 2,000 subs. They're bots. YouTube will take care of those immediately. You know, the only true fire way to get followers on YouTube is just to make content that appeals to a certain audience. Like a crazy man reading Hansel and Gretel. All right. Anyways. Weston says, one day I should read Harry Potter. Thank you, Weston. And thank you again, Double L, for your super chat. Appreciate all of you. Okay. Hansel and Gretel. Near a great forest dwelt a poor woodcutter with his wife. Brothers Grimm, they love writing about poor woodcutters and their wives. What is with that? I'm getting something about how maybe they grew up the children of poor woodcutters. They had 2 children. The boy was Hansel, the girl was Gretel. He had little to bite and to break, and when scarcity fell on the land, he could no longer procure daily bread. This is going very close to the last story we read. Now, when he thought, I think maybe they saw how derivative their last book was. They're like, okay, new story. We're going to use the exact same first paragraph, except instead of a baby girl, they got 2 children, a boy and a girl. Now, when he thought over this at night in his bed and tossed about in his anxiety, he groaned and said to his wife, "What is to become of us? How are we to feed our poor children when we no longer have anything for ourselves?" "I'll tell you what, husband," answered the woman. "Early tomorrow, I'm going to take our children out to the forest, where it's the thickest. There, we'll light a fire for them, and we'll give each of them 1 piece of bread. And then we will go to work and leave them alone. They will not find the way home again, and we are gonna just get rid of them."
"No, wife," said the man. "I will not do that. How can I bear to leave my children alone in the forest? The wild animals would soon come and tear them to pieces."
"Ah, you fool," she said. "Then we must all 4 die of hunger? You may as well plane the planks for our coffins." And she left him no peace until he consented. this guy. You're gonna let your wife convince you to kill your 2 kids? I think divorce is in order. Maybe do that instead. I don't know.
But I feel sorry for the poor children,
said the man. The 2 children had also not been able to sleep due to hunger, and had heard what their stepmother... Oh, it's their This is the first time they've used the word stepmother. Okay, that explains everything. It's a fairy tale. You gotta have an evil stepmother because, fairy tale. I wonder if the Brothers Grimm had a mean stepmother, and that's why every story has an evil stepmother. Again, let's look at this from a psychoanalytical point of view. Anyways... They had heard what their stepmother said to their father. Gretel wept bitter tears and said to Hansel, Now all is over for us."
"Hush, Gretel,"
said Hansel.
"do not distress yourself. I will soon find a way to help us."
I don't know what this accent is that I'm giving Hansel. I'm Samantha says, "Get rid of the kid. She needs her smokes, damn it. These kids, can't afford these Marlboro packs at $10 now, thanks to the government." Okay, so when the old folks had fallen asleep, Hansel got up, put on his little coat, opened the door below, and crept outside. The moon shone brightly, and the white pebbles which lay in front of the house glittered like real silver pennies. Hansel stooped and put as many of them in his little pocket of his coat as he possibly could get in there. And when he went back and said to Gretel, "Be comforted, dear little..." I'm trying to do like a German thing. "Be comforted, dear little sister, and sleep in peace." I keep doing like a weird like Norwegian thing or something. I don't know. I apologize. God will not forsake us. I guess I'm settling on Russian. I can do Russian. And he lay down again in his bed. When day dawned, but before the sun had risen, the woman came and awoke the 2 children, saying, "Get up, you sluggards." I'm not making this up. Sluggards. Sluggards is the word. The word of the day. Can you see that? Sorry. Sluggards. Sluggards. Okay. "Get up, you sluggards. We're going into the forest to fetch wood." She gave each a little piece of bread and said, "There's something for your dinner, but don't eat it all up before then, for you will get nothing else." Gretel took the bread under her apron, as Hansel had the stones in his pocket. Then they all set out together on the way to the forest. When they walked a short time, Hansel stood still and peeped back at the house, and did so again and again. His father said,
Hansel, what are you looking at there and staying behind for? Mind yourself and don't forget how to use your legs."
Father," said Hansel, "I am looking at my little white cat, which is sitting up on the roof and wants to say goodbye to me." Then the stepmother said, "Fool! That's not your little cat. That is the morning sun which is shining on the chimneys." Why does she have to be so combative? Hansel, however, had not been looking back at the cat, but had been constantly throwing one of the white pebble stones out of his pocket on the road. When they reached the middle of the forest, the father said,
"Now, children, pile up some wood and I will light a fire so that you may not grow cold."
The father's obviously Kermit the Frog. I don't know. Hansel and Gretel gathered bushwood together as high as a little hill. The bushwood was lighted, and when the flames were burning very high, the woman said,
"Now, children, lay yourselves down by the fire and rest. We will go into the forest and cut some wood. And when we've done that, we will come back and fetch you right away."
Getting a super chat here. Double L says, "Who is your favorite YouTuber and movie?" That's a good question. I don't know if I have a favorite YouTube movie. Maybe one of the Defunct Land documentaries. Those go for like an hour and a half. I love those. Defunct Land is really good if you guys are interested in like literally defunct rides at amusement parks and the history of certain rides at Disneyland and the history of Disney himself. Then you should check out Defunct Land. This is not a paid sponsorship by Defunct Land, but of course, my favorite YouTuber is Mr. Sunday Movies. He's an Australian dude. He reviews movies and stuff. It's great. Anyways, back to the story. Hansel and Gretel sat by the fire, and when noon came, each ate a little piece of bread. And as they heard the strokes of the wood axe, they believed that their father was near. It was not, however, the axe. It was a branch which had been fastened to a withered tree, which the wind was blowing backwards and forwards, and as they had been sitting such a long time, their eyes shut with fatigue, and they fell fast asleep. When at last they awoke, it was already dark night. Gretel began to cry and said, "How are we going to get out of the forest now?" But Hansel comforted her and said, "Just wait a little until the moon has risen, and then we will soon find the way." And when the full moon had risen, Hansel took his little sister by the hand and followed the pebbles which shone like newly coined silver pieces, and it showed them the way. Good thing he was dropping those silver things along the way. They walked the whole night long, and by break of day came once more to their father's house. They knocked on the door, and when the woman opened it and saw it was Hansel and Gretel, she said, "You naughty children, why have you slept so long in the forest? We thought you were never coming back at all." Your father, however, rejoiced, for it had cut him to the heart to leave them behind alone. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I kept going in the voice. She says, "We thought you were never coming back at all." And then that's the end of her speech. And then the narrator, me, in normal voice says, "The father, however, rejoiced, for it had cut him to the heart to leave them behind alone." See, mistakes were made. Not long afterwards, there was once more great scarcity in all parts. The children heard their mother saying at night to their father, "Everything is eaten again. We have one loaf left, and after that there's no more. We could afford groceries, but I couldn't buy my ciggies if I did that." I added that line. "The children must go. We will take them even farther into the forest, so that they will not find their way out again. And then there'll be no means of saving them." The man's heart was heavy as he thought, "It would be better for you to share the last mouthful with your children." The woman, however, would listen to nothing that he had to say, and scolded and reproached him. He who says A must say B likewise, and as he had yielded the first time, he had to do so a second time. Worst father ever. The children were, however, still awake and had heard the entire conversation. When the old folks were asleep, Hansel again got up and wanted to go out and pick up pebbles, as he had done before, but the woman had locked the door, and Hansel could not get out. Nevertheless, he comforted his little sister and said, "Do not cry, Gretel. Go to sleep quietly. The good God will help us." Early in the morning came the woman and took the children out of their beds. That was a Sublime reference, by the way. Their bit of bread was given to them, but it was still smaller than the time before. On the way into the forest, Hansel crumbled his in his pocket and often stood still and threw a morsel on the ground.
"Hansel, why do you stop and look around?" said the father. "Go on."
"I am looking back at my little pigeon, which is sitting on the roof and wants to say goodbye to me," answered Hansel. "Simpleton," said the woman. "That is not your little pigeon. That is the morning sun shining on the chimney again." Hansel, however, little by little threw all the crumbs on the path. We have another super chat from Double L who says, "Who is your favorite rapper?" Thank you, Double L, for your generous super chat. My favorite rapper... I mean, it's gonna be either Dr. Dre or Eminem, because, I'm from California, West Coast rap, and I loved listening to that stuff as a kid. I'm gonna go ahead and say Eminem. That's probably not everybody's favorite answer, but the Marshall Mathers LP meant a lot to me as a kid. Slim Shady. Anyways, but thank you for your super chat. Back to the story. I lost my place. Hold on. Oh, here we go. The woman led the children still deeper into the forest, where they had never in their lives been before. Then a great fire was again made, and the mother said, "Just sit there, you children, and when you are tired, you may sleep a little. We're gonna go into the forest to cut wood again, and in the evening when we're done, we will come and fetch you right away." When it was noon, Gretel shared her piece of bread with Hansel, who had scattered his by the way. Then they fell asleep, and evening came and went, but no one came to the poor children. What a surprise! They did not wake until it was dark night, and Hansel comforted his little sister and said, "Just wait, Gretel, until moon rises, and then we shall see the crumbs of bread which I have strewn about. They will show us our way home again." When the moon came, they set out, but they found no crumbs, for the many thousands of birds which fly about in the woods and fields had picked them all up. Hansel said to Gretel, "We shall soon find the way." But they did not find it. They walked the whole night, and all the next day too, from morning till evening, but they did not get out of the forest, and were very hungry. For they had nothing to eat but 2 or 3 berries, which grew on the ground. And as they were so weary that their legs would carry them no longer, they lay beneath a tree and fell asleep. It was now 3 mornings since they left their father's house. They began to walk again, but they always got deeper and deeper into the forest, and if help did not come soon, they would die of hunger and weariness. When it was midday, they saw a beautiful snow-white bird sitting on a bough. A bough. It was sitting on a bough, which sang so delightfully that they stood still and listened to it. Chirp, 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 chirp. And when it had finished its song, it spread its wings and flew away before them, and they followed it until they reached a little house, on the roof of which it alighted. And when they came quite up to the little house, they saw it was built of bread and covered with cakes, but that the windows were of clear sugar. "We will set to work on that," said Hansel, "and have a good meal. I will eat a bit of the roof, and you, Gretel, can eat some of the window. It will taste sweet." Hansel reached up above and, dude, this is somebody's house, okay? So they're crazy and wanted to make their house out of bread and sugar, and it obviously should have gotten eaten by all of the forest creatures days ago. Doesn't matter. It's still someone's house, and you should respect other people's private possessions and property. Samantha says, "Plot twist, the berries were bad. They're tripping balls." Who knows? Okay. Hansel reached up above and broke off a little of the roof to try how it tasted, and Gretel leaned against the window and nibbled at the pane. Then a soft voice cried from the room, "Nibble, nibble, nibble, no. Who is nibbling at my house?" The children answered, "The wind is hitting your house," and went on eating without disturbing themselves. What morons! Hansel, who thought the roof tasted very nice, tore down a great piece of it, and Gretel pushed out the whole of one round window pane, sat down, and enjoyed herself with it. Suddenly the door opened, and a very, very old woman who supported herself on crutches came creeping out. This is a poor, decrepit woman on crutches. She deserves respect, children. Hansel and Gretel were so terribly frightened that they let fall what they had in their hands. The old woman, however, nodded her head and said, "Oh, you dear children, who has brought you here? Do come in and stay with me. No harm shall happen to you." pro tip, if a woman or man says, come to me, come into my house, no harm will come to you, that's a good sign that harm will come to you. Just see, if they have to say, no harm will come to you. Yeah, anyways. Okay, no harm will come to you. She took them both by the hand and led them into her little house. Then gave food. Oh, then good food was set before them. Milk, pancakes, sugar, apples, and nuts. Just like eating just scoops of sugar. Afterwards, 2 pretty little beds were covered with clean white linen, and Hansel and Gretel lay down in them, and thought they were in heaven. The old woman had only pretended to be so kind. She was in reality a wicked witch, who lay in wait for children, and only built the little house of bread in order to entice them there. When a child fell into her power, she killed it, cooked it, and ate it. And that was a feast day with her. Witches have red eyes and cannot see far, but they have a keen scent like a beast, and are aware when human beings draw near. When Hansel and Gretel came into her neighborhood, it's a neighborhood now? Is there like a suburb going on here? She laughed maliciously and said mockingly, I have them. I shall not let them escape. Early in the morning, before the children were awake, she was already up, and when she saw both of them sleeping and looking so pretty, with their plump red cheeks, she muttered to herself, that will be a dainty mouthful. Then she seized Hansel with her shriveled hand, carried him into a little stable, and shut him in with a grated door. He might scream as he liked, that was of no use. Then she went to Gretel, shook her till she awoke, and cried, get up, lazy thing, fetch some water, and cook something good for your brother. He's in the stable outside, and is to be made fat. When he is fat, I will eat him. Ah! Gretel began to weep bitterly, but it was all in vain. She was forced to do what the wicked witch ordered her to do. And now the best food was cooked for poor Hansel, but Gretel got nothing but crab shells. Every morning the woman crept to the little stable and cried, Hansel, stretch out your finger that I may feel if you will soon be fat. Hansel, however, stretched out a little bone to her, and the old woman, who had dim eyes, could not see it and thought it was Hansel's finger. What? Hold on. Oh. You see, I thought when they were saying little bone, I thought that was his finger, like he's so tiny and slender because, his family was starving, right? Remember, his family was starving? I thought it meant that his finger was like a bone, but he literally gave her a bone that he got from somewhere. And he fooled her, haha. Anyways. Okay, she thought it was Hansel's finger, and she was astonished that there was no way of fattening him. So basically, he's fooling her for a long time. 4 weeks goes by, and Hansel still stayed thin, or she thought so. She was seized with impatience and would not wait any longer. Now, Gretel, she cried to the girl, be active and bring some water. Let Hansel be fat or lean. Tomorrow I will cook him and kill him either way. We have a super chat from Double L who says, I hope you didn't actually pay $3,000 for that PS5. I don't have a PS5, so I don't know where you... I used to have a PS5. It's a long story. It doesn't matter. But I didn't pay no $3,000 for a PS5. Trust me, I paid regular price when it came out. Anyways. But thank you for your super chat, Double L. Where was I? Oh, how the poor little sister did lament when she had to fetch the water, and how her tears did flow down her cheeks. Dear God. Oh, it's the little girl. Dear God, do help us, she cried. If the wild beast in the forest had devoured us, at least we would have died together.
Just keep your nose to yourself, said the old woman. All that won't help you at all. At all.
Early in the morning, man, this is the third time. Early in the morning, Gretel had to go out and hang up the cauldron with water and light the fire.
We will bake first, said the old woman. I have already heated the oven and kneaded the dough.
She pushed poor Gretel out of the oven, from which flames of fire were already darting.
Creep in, said the witch, and see if this is properly heated, so that we can shut the bread in.
And once Gretel was inside, she intended to shut the oven and let her bake in it, and then she would eat her too. But Gretel saw what she had in mind and said, I do not know how do I get in?
Silly goose, said the old woman. The door is big enough. Just look. I could even get in myself.
And the old woman crept up and thrust her head into the oven. Then Gretel gave her a push that drove her far into it, and shut the iron door and fastened the bolt. Oh, then she began to howl quite horribly, but Gretel ran away, and the godless witch was miserably burnt to death. Before we continue, this is a little girl who, before devouring a window of sugar, which even if it is a window of sugar, we're still talking like 100 calories max, sugar calories, and then she's been eating nothing but crab legs, crab shells, crab legs ever since. Like, this is not a strong little girl. This girl probably weighs like 50 pounds. There's no way that a grown-ass witch, 150 pounds average, sticks her head in an oven, and this little girl is strong enough to like hoist the witch into the oven. The girl would have to be strong enough to grab the witch by the butt, basically, and lift and push her in. I call foul, Brothers Grimm. Call foul. Anyways, doesn't matter. It's part of the story. Somehow this little ass girl was able to push this big ass witch into this oven. I don't know, man. I'd have to inspect the oven, see what angle it's at to see, Doesn't matter. Anyways. Woo! Anyways, Gretel, however, ran like lightning to Hansel, opened his little stable, and cried, Hansel, we're saved! The old witch is dead! Then Hansel sprang out like a bird from his cage when the door was opened. How they did rejoice and embrace each other, and dance about and kiss each other. Ew, they're brother and sister? Sorry. And as they had no longer any need to fear her, they went into the witch's house, and in every corner stood chests full of pearls and jewels. These are far better than pebbles, said Hansel. Oh, sorry, it's Hansel speaking. These are far better than pebbles, and thrust into his pockets whatever he could get in. And Gretel said, I too will take something home with me, and filled her pockets full. But now we will go away, said Hansel, that we may get out of the witch's forest. When they had walked for 2 hours, they came to a great body of water. We cannot get over it, said Hansel. I see no footplank and no bridge. And no boat crosses either, answered Gretel. But a white duck is swimming there. If I ask her, she will help us over. And then Gretel cried, little duck, do you see? Hansel and Gretel are waiting for you. There's never a plank or a bridge in sight. Take us across on your back so white. Suddenly Gretel is a poet and talks in rhyme. We have another super chat from Double L who says, in that series you made about your real life, okay. That's where you're getting the information about the PS5 being $3,000. Well, I've got news for you, Double L, and thanks again for your super chat, by the way. That was fake. That was a show. I know the show is called The Poor Life of Rich because, puns and jokes and everything. Everything that happened on that show, I wrote. You know, some jokes were taken from real life, but most of that show was fake, obviously. And you should not take any of that, what happened in that show, as for real. Anyways, it doesn't matter. There was no $3,000 spent on a PS5. It's fine. But once again, thank you for your super chat. All right, Samantha says Gretel be spitting rhymes. Yeah, she's a regular M&M. The duck came to them. We got a duck who understands English. Eh? The duck came to them, and Hansel seated himself on its back and told his sister to sit by him. "No," replied Gretel, "that will be too heavy for this little duck. She shall take it across one after the other." How is this duck even big enough for Hansel's fat ass? Anyways, Brothers Grimm, how many ducks did you sit on to prove your point? The good little duck did so, and when they were safely across and had walked for a short time, the forest seemed to be more and more familiar to them. Okay, so that's the end of the duck in this story. The duck had no point in the story other than to boat them across the river. I ask you, good ladies and gentlemen, what was the point of the duck? Why didn't they just write that they crossed a bridge? They didn't have to cross a river to get to the witch's house. Right? Anyways. Yeah, Tim says, there's a duck now? Alright. Anyways, they walked for a short time, the forest seemed more and more familiar to them, and at length they saw from afar their father's house. Then they began to run, rushed into the parlor, and threw themselves into their father's arms. The man had not known one happy hour since he had left the children in the forest. The woman, however, was dead. Their stepmother was dead. Yay! Gretel emptied her pin, and the children don't care. They're like excited to show the dad all the jewels and everything. He's like, your stepmother has died, and they're like, hooray! Gretel emptied her pin. Why did he marry the stepmother in the first place? What was so special about her? I really need to know. Because she didn't have a good attitude, and she certainly didn't treat him right, so I need to know why he picked her. Anyways. Gretel emptied her pinafore and pinafore is like a pocket on a dress, I think, until pearls and precious stones ran about the room, and Hansel threw one handful after another out of his pockets to add to them. Then all anxiety was at an end, and they lived together in perfect happiness. My tale is done. See the mouse run. Whoever catches it may make himself a big fur cap out of it. What? What a weird set. I guess I haven't read this story in a long-ass time, but that's how the story ends, my friends. The last sentence of this book is, my tale is done, see the mouse run, whoever catches it may make himself a big fur cap out of it. That is the last sentence in Hansel and Gretel. I think that the Brothers Grimm may have been on drugs. I don't know. Anyways, thank you all so much for the first episode of Rich Tales, everybody. You made this great. What should I read next? Don't forget to leave a comment in when this becomes, after it's live and it's become a permanent video. Don't forget to leave a comment and let me know what would you like me to read next. I can read more Grimm's fairy tales. Again, I can read scripts. I have a script. I do have a script that I do intend to read on one of these episodes of Rich Tales. Should I read, again, one of the many novels that I began writing but never finished? Should I read from... Somebody suggested Harry Potter earlier. That's a good idea. Yeah, just let me know. What are your suggestions? I really like the idea of Rich Tales. I know I've done streams where I sing and play the piano. I've done streams where I play video games, obviously, and I've done streams where we just do Q&A. But I really liked the idea of streams where I'm just reading stuff, because I get to do funny voices and it's no effort on my part. So Anyways, yeah, if you would like, Paul said, I want to buy that book. Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales. Again, my sister got me this for Christmas. I should say my sister and her husband Andy got me this for Christmas. And it's really cool. It's really thick. It's like all the complete Grimm fairy tales. Anyways, we have another super chat from Double L who says, I know the series was, we're still talking about Poor Life of Rich. The series was fake. I'm not an idiot. I was just messing with you. Love your channel. Okay, I know Double L. It's okay. I'm not offended. I knew you were probably joking. I just wanted to point out for everyone that there was no part of that show that was real anyway. But thank you for your generous super chat. Really appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody who super chatted today, and I appreciate everybody who liked this video. Don't forget. And in case you don't subscribe, or you haven't subscribed, if there's anybody out there who is actually watching this that hasn't subscribed, please subscribe. It's free and easy. Just ask my friend, the Brothers Grimm. My friends, the Brothers Grimm. Anyways, that's going to do it for us today. Again, leave a comment. Let me know what you'd like to read, what you would like me to read next, and I will maybe get to it. I'm a busy guy. That's gonna do it for me today. Please subscribe. Bye bye. I don't know how to end. I do not know how to end videos anymore. I don't. Anyways, see you later.